Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LM Report. I'm your host, Lima, and this is episode 14B recorded on April 17, 2025. Today, we're unpacking critical issues shaping the United States: immigration enforcement, judicial roadblocks, and bold economic reforms. From high-profile deportation cases to efforts to curb wasteful spending and empower parents through school choice, we'll explore how these policies impact citizens and the nation's future. I've also dug into the latest data to bring you a comprehensive, fact-based analysis. Let's dive into the news. Immigration enforcement and public discourse. Immigration policy is at the forefront of national debates, with the Trump administration prioritizing the deportation of undocumented immigrants, particularly those with criminal records. The administration is leveraging the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, which grants the president authority to detain or deport non-citizens from nations deemed hostile during wartime or emergencies. This legal framework has enabled rapid action, with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, reporting over 80,000 deportations in the first 100 days of 2025, a 30% increase from 2024. A flashpoint in this debate is the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, an El Salvadoran citizen deported to El Salvador after allegations of ties to the MS-13 gang, drug trafficking, human trafficking, and domestic violence. Initially, some media outlets and lawmakers portrayed Garcia as a Maryland resident wrongly deported, sparking outrage. However, documents released by Attorney General Pam Bondi paint a different picture. A 2019 Gangfield interview sheet from Maryland police noted Garcia was detained with confirmed MS-13 members wearing gang-associated apparel, a Chicago Bulls hat and hoodie, and identified by a credible source as an active member with the rank Chico and nickname Chili. Court records further reveal his wife, Jennifer Vasquez, filed protective orders in 2020 and 2021, alleging physical abuse, including punching and scratching that left bruises. The case escalated when Senator Chris Van Hollen, Democrat Maryland, traveled to El Salvador to advocate for Garcia's return, citing due process concerns. El Salvador's Vice President Felix Aloa rejected the request, stating Garcia is an El Salvadoran citizen and subject to their laws. The administration redirected attention to victims, spotlighting cases like Rachel Morin, a Maryland mother of 5 raped and murdered in August 2023 by an undocumented El Salvadoran who had been deported 3 times, and Kayla Hamilton, an autistic woman killed in July 2022 by a 17-year-old MS-13 member in Harford County. These tragedies underscore the administration's argument that prioritizing citizen safety is paramount. Public sentiment leans toward stricter enforcement. A Rasmussen Reports poll from March 2025 found 73% of Democrats and 85% of Republicans consider stopping illegal immigration very or somewhat important. Nationally, a Gallup poll shows 55% of Americans want immigration levels reduced, the highest since 2001. Critics argue mass deportations risk community trust and economic disruption, as undocumented workers contribute $79 billion annually in taxes. Supporters counter that targeting criminals, less than 10% of the estimated 11 million undocumented population, enhances security without undermining lawful immigration. The administration is balancing enforcement with legal pathways. In February 2025, Trump proposed a merit-based immigration system, prioritizing skilled workers and those with U.S. ties, drawing inspiration from Canada's points-based model. This aims to streamline legal entry while deterring illegal crossings, though implementation details remain pending. Judicial challenges and systemic overhaul. The administration's agenda faces significant judicial resistance, highlighting tensions between executive action and the courts. A notable case involves a federal judge's ruling against deporting 530,000 migrants transported into the U.S. under a Biden-era domestic commercial flight program for border crossers. The judge argued each case requires individual trials, a process Trump criticized as out of control, estimating it could take 100 years. This ruling underscores a broader pattern. Lower courts often delay executive actions only for appeals courts to overturn them. Another example is Judge Tanya Chutkan, who blocked EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin from reclaiming $20 billion from a Biden-era climate fund, labeled by critics as a slush fund for green energy projects. The D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals reversed this ruling, but the back and forth illustrates how judicial delays frustrate policy goals. Zeldin also raised concerns about Make Sunsets, a startup injecting sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere to sell cooling credits, prompting an EPA investigation into potential air quality violations. These judicial battles expose systemic issues. The administration argues some judges prioritize ideological agendas over legal merit, clogging the system with injunctions. To counter this, Trump is pushing for U.S. attorney confirmations, including Jay Clayton, former SEC chair, and Ed Martin, to strengthen legal enforcement. Senate Democrats are resisting, fearing these nominees will aggressively pursue administration priorities, such as prosecuting corruption or enforcing immigration laws. Senate Republicans are urged to secure confirmations to uphold the rule of law. Reforming the judicial process is critical for broader objectives like cleaning agencies or pursuing prosecutions. The Department of Justice, DOJ, is reviewing judicial conduct, with Attorney General Pam Bondi investigating cases like New Hampshire where parents were blocked from protesting a transgender athlete's participation in girls' sports. Bondi's Civil Rights Division is examining potential free speech violations, signaling a commitment to constitutional protections. The administration is also exposing inefficiencies through the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, led by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. DOGE's AI-powered DI funding detector flagged $2.8 million to Rush University for programs focusing on health disparities by gender identity, raising questions about spending priorities. By auditing federal awards and IRS filings, DOGE aims to redirect funds to core functions like infrastructure or healthcare, reducing taxpayer burden. Economic reforms and citizen empowerment. Economic transformation is a cornerstone of the administration's vision. One priority is lowering prescription drug prices, a promise Trump reiterated in 2025. The Biden-era Inflation Reduction Act's Medicare drug negotiation program aimed to reduce costs but delivered only $1.5 billion in savings against a projected $10 billion, due to complexity and exemptions for high-cost biologics. The Act's pill penalty imposes price controls on small molecule drugs 4 years earlier than biologics, discouraging investment in affordable treatments for chronic conditions like diabetes. Within 60 days, the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, will propose guidance to increase transparency, prioritize high-cost drugs for negotiation, and minimize innovation disruptions. By 2026, HHS aims to stabilize Medicare Part D premiums, which rose 20% in 2024 due to Act-related changes, and align price controls for small molecule and biologic drugs. A test payment model will improve Medicare's value for high-cost drugs, potentially saving $5 billion annually by 2027. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a vocal critic of Big Pharma, is expected to push for vaccine safety reviews, though specifics remain unclear. Education reform is another focus. Texas Governor Greg Abbott's Senate Bill 2, signed in March 2025, establishes a $1 billion Education Savings Account (ESA) program, allowing parents to use public funds for private school tuition or homeschooling. Students receive $10,000 annually, with $30,000 for those with disabilities and $2,000 for homeschoolers. Priority goes to low-income families, with 20% of funds reserved for non-disabled, non-low-income students. The Texas Comptroller's Office has 1 year to implement, with Trump endorsing nationwide expansion. This school choice model empowers parents and fosters competition, forcing public schools to improve or risk losing students. Critics warn it could strain public school budgets, which rely on per-pupil funding, but supporters argue it ensures education aligns with parental values. Arizona's ESA program, launched in 2022, increased private school enrollment by 15% without significant public school closures, suggesting scalability. Free speech, antitrust, and global stability. Protecting free speech and holding corporations accountable are key priorities. Secretary of State Marco Rubio shuttered the Counter Foreign Information and Manipulation Office, accused of censoring American speech under the guise of combating foreign disinformation. The Global Engagement Center, funded by $100 million annually, collaborated with contractors to flag content violating First Amendment rights. Its closure, announced in April 2025, reflects a broader push to restore free expression. In antitrust news, a federal judge in Virginia ruled that Google illegally monopolized digital advertising markets, violating the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890. The case, backed by 17 states and the DOJ, found Google's control of ad servers and exchanges handling 70% of U.S. digital ad revenue harmed publishers and consumers by inflating prices and stifling innovation. Remedies, like divestitures or restrictions, are under review with a decision expected by mid-2025. This follows a 2024 ruling against Google's search monopoly, signaling heightened scrutiny of big tech. Globally, the administration is ending endless wars. A planned U.S. withdrawal from Syria by June 2025 aims to reduce military overreach, saving $500 million annually. Funding cuts to Gaza's leadership, down 70% from USAID since 2024, have crippled their operations, with leaders admitting financial collapse is worse than conflicts with Israel. These moves redirect resources to domestic priorities like healthcare or infrastructure while reducing foreign entanglements. The administration also averted escalation with Iran. In March 2025, Trump rejected Israeli proposals for preemptive strikes, favoring negotiations. This decision, supported by Vice President J.D. Vance and others, prevented a broader conflict, stabilizing oil prices at $70 per barrel, down 10% from January 2025. Building trust and charting the future. The administration's strategy hinges on rebuilding public trust through transparency and results. By exposing judicial delays, wasteful spending, and media bias, Trump's team aims to unite Americans around common-sense policies. Polls reflect growing support. A Pew Research survey from April 2025 shows 60% of Americans approve of stricter immigration enforcement, up from 52% in 2023. With 65% favoring school choice. Even among Democrats, 40% support DOGE's spending audits, indicating bipartisan frustration with waste. Challenges persist. Judicial resistance, entrenched bureaucracies, and global uncertainties could slow progress. For example, the American Bar Association warns that rushed judicial confirmations risk politicizing courts, though supporters argue delays enable activist judges. Economically, tariff revenues projected at $200 billion in 2025 must offset tax cuts to avoid deficits, a concern raised by the Congressional Budget Office. Yet, initiatives like DOGE, school choice, and drug price reforms demonstrate a commitment to efficiency and empowerment. DOGE's audits could save $500 billion by 2027, while school choice could boost educational outcomes, with studies showing a 10% improvement in math scores for voucher students. As midterms approach, the administration will likely intensify efforts to expose corruption, secure elections, and build a coalition for lasting change. The path forward requires strategic timing. Cleaning agencies, confirming loyal appointees, and winning public support are prerequisites for deeper reforms like prosecuting corruption or auditing the $36 trillion federal debt. A 2024 GAO report suggests 20% of debt interest payments could be reduced through efficiency, offering a starting point. By showcasing systemic flaws, the administration is laying the groundwork for a fairer, more accountable government, potentially reshaping the U.S. for decades. That's all for today's LM Report. Thanks for joining me as we explored immigration enforcement, judicial challenges, and economic transformation. If you found this episode insightful, please subscribe to our channel for daily updates on policies shaping our world. Hit the bell icon to stay notified and share your thoughts in the comments below. For more details on today's topics, check the links in the description. I'm Lima, and I'll see you next time. Stay informed, stay engaged, and take care.